Hey, Magic Mirror, who's the fairest of them all?
Why, Shrek, of course.
I'm all up for some crystal gazing as long as it's not about my future and something more interesting, like what the entertainment index is going to be this year or what movies will be out soon. Also, how many of them are going to be remakes or sequels? Well, I've got my crystal ball, and let me tell you, 2026 is looking fantastic. Here's a run-up to the new year. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Avengers Doomsday. This looks like a definitive one, with a release date already set for December 18, 2026, and will be directed by the Russo brothers and written by Stephen McFeely. The movie's cast boasts stars including Last of Us star Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Robert Downey Jr. The combination of the Russo brothers and the Avengers seems like a stage set for renewing the MCU's glorious past. The plot will feature Earth's superheroes, including the reintroduction of the X-Men, as they face a villain who has been seen before. Yes, Iron Man. Still, in this alternate universe, Tony Stark's evil version plays the titular role of Doctor Doom. The audience went wild with the excitement when the announcement was made at the San Diego Comic-Con 2024, where Robert Downey's casting was confirmed. Joe Russo, in an interview, said it was producer Kevin Feige's idea to bring back Downey Jr., and it's an idea that could have massive ramifications. The makers claim this installment will be the biggest face-off of all time, with Avengers, X-Men, Thunderbolts, except Taskmaster, and Fantastic Four sharing screen space. Since Fantastic Four's connection with Doctor Doom is more closely tied, they would have a significant role in this franchise. Many say that the MCU constantly presents an evil twin of their superhero from an alternate universe. Still, the hype this time is centered on Robert Downey Jr., who is one of the most beloved and popular superheroes, mine too, and seeing him switch sides will be interesting. I want to know how this ends.
Ew, Dad!
Ooh, Mommy like.
Who's making this stuff?
Not me!
Shrek 5. The green temperamental ogre returns for the 5th time on December 23, 2026, with Walt Dorn and Conrad Vernon helming the director's hat and Michael McCullers donning the writer's hat. The fantasy animation film Shrek has been a universal favorite, based on William Steig's 1990 picture book of the same name. Produced by DreamWorks Animation and distributed by Universal Pictures, the last Shrek movie was released in 2010, titled Shrek Forever After. So the wait for Shrek 5 has been really long. The voice casting continues with Mike Myers giving his role to Shrek, Eddie Murphy for the donkey, and Cameron Diaz for Princess Fiona. A new lead, named Felicia, Shrek and Fiona's daughter, has been added, whose voice will be provided by actress Zendaya. Little is known about the plot for Shrek's Far, Far Away Land, but from what I saw in the 30-second teaser, it seemed like Shrek 5's story has drawn inspiration from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in which the queen asks the magic mirror who's fairest of all, and the mirror blurts the name Snow White. Here too, the donkey asks the magic mirror the same question, and the magic mirror confidently says Shrek's name, presenting him in different avatars, from a caped superhero to a six-pack abs Johnny Bravo. While it's a funny scene and his family, Fiona and Felicia, laugh about it, Shrek wonders how he could be the fairest and who was manipulating the magic mirror. The teaser ends by giving us room for thought that Shrek 5 has a mysterious villain who needs to be put to rest. Will it be a cat and mouse game or a horror comedy? I don't know. But since the 5th film has been in development since 2017, after being greenlit in 2014, this one's worth the wait. Additionally, Shrek 5 is reportedly the final installment of the franchise, so I'm looking forward to its release. SpiderMan, Brand New Day. Spidey's back, and with him is actor Tom Holland, who will reprise his role as Spider-Man. Destin Daniel Cretton will direct the movie, and it will be written by Eric Sommers and Chris McKenna. Zendaya and Jacob Batalon are returning, along with John Bernthal, who's gearing up as the Punisher. All three are reprising their respective roles. The movie is due for release on July 31st, 2026. The reveal was made at CinemaCon at the end of March this year. The plot begins at a point when Peter Parker is a forgotten name, and he starts his new life as a commoner, attending college, working part-time to support his studies, and leaving behind his identity as Spider-Man. However, his life as a commoner comes to an end when a threat looms over his friends, forcing him to tap into his innate desire to help. Will it be a cakewalk or a rope walk? He doesn't know, as he's trapped between dangerous enemies and his past legacies. But there are allies, and who would turn up to help? Someone unexpected for sure. Would this adventure prompt him to reconsider wearing the suit for life and redefine his purpose as a superhero? The hype from the movie stems from two reasons. One, it's a popular franchise. And second, the way things ended in No Way Home, everyone, including me, would want to see what happens next. The Super Mario Bros. Movie 2. In 2023, a cute animation film titled The Super Mario Bros. Broke all box office records, resulting in its second installment being greenlit within months of its release. Adapted from Nintendo's video game franchise, The Super Mario Bros. Was a second attempt at a movie adaptation after the first adaptation flopped in 1993. The movie's cast hasn't been announced. Still, it wouldn't be right not to repeat the cast from movie 1, namely voice actors Chris Pratt as Mario, Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, Jack Black as King Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, Charlie Day as Luigi, and Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. Nintendo's executive Miyamoto and Chris Meledandri, CEO and founder of Illumination, announced at an event that they are collaborating with Illumination and Universal to help develop a new movie, set for release in the United States on April 3rd, 2026, with plans to expand to other countries. The animation was set to begin with the directors of the first movie, Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic, returning, along with writer Matthew Fogel. Regarding the plot, the team announced that they intend to bring a fun story to the audience, expanding Mario's universe. They tiptoed around the fact that movie 2 wasn't necessarily a sequel and promised to reveal more later. And that was enough for me to begin the guessing game about the plot. What could it be? The makers wouldn't compromise on the hit franchise by overhauling the characters. Therefore, it's a given that the old characters in Mario's world would return. However, there is a possibility that the antagonist, who was King Bowser in the first movie and whose voice was provided by Jack Black, could be changed, and a new villain could emerge with a new challenge. I say this because, in an old interview posted after the 2023 release of the first movie, Jack Black stated that he didn't have details to confirm his presence in movie 2. The plot could also take us in a new world, away from the Mushroom Kingdom, and provide more exposure to Donkey Kong, voiced by Seth Rogen, and Yoshi. There was also a possibility that movie 2 could introduce a plot point from Nintendo's other film, being adapted from its video game franchise titled The Legend of Zelda. Fans have gone berserk guessing the whole plot, and even said that Mario and his team would go to Dinosaur Kingdom where they would face a new threat. While they are tackling it, King Bowser's children, the Koopalings, release him from prison to wreak havoc. The possibilities are myriad, but at the moment, I'm certain it's a sequel since they can't afford a spin-off which would need to use a different character set. There's a reason why it's called Super Mario Bros. Movie 2. Toy Story 5. Remember our childhood days when we thought toys were the very existence of our lives? That's changed now, with Gen Alpha using their little fingers to hold gadgets instead of toys. This concern is the premise of Toy Story 5, where Buzz and Woody return to fight the electronic world that is hijacking children's lives. They return to fight the concept that toys are passé. They return nearly 15 years after we thought they were gone for good in Toy Story 4, and actor Tom Hanks, the voice artist for Woody, also mentioned there would be no fifth installment. However, Tim Allen, the voice of Buzz, while doing Toy Story 4, made a valid comment, saying that if the franchise has moved past the trilogy, then there's no harm in going all out for a fifth installment. Pixar has given the green light to Toy Story 5, with development beginning in November 2023. The rough plot begins after the events when Woody leaves Bonnie to watch over his abandoned toys. At that time, Jessie takes over Bonnie's room, with Buzz following in tow. But Bonnie, now 8 years old, is increasingly enchanted by her tablet, which is a frog-shaped lily pad. This action is annoying. Therefore, Woody returns and, along with friends Buzz and Jessie, gets into action mode to stop the kids from being attacked by technology. Director of the movies Finding Nemo and WALL-E, Andrew Stanton, will direct the film. Tom Hanks, along with Tim Allen, will return as the voices for Buzz and Woody. The film is set to release on June 19th, 2026. The Odyssey. After the mega success of Oppenheimer, Hollywood's A-lister and Oscar-winning director Christopher Nolan returns with an adaptation of Greek poet Homer's famous poem, Odyssey. The story revolves around Odysseus in the post-Trojan War era. American actor Matt Damon portrays the Greek king of Ithaca, Odysseus, who embarks on a journey back home after the Trojan War to reunite with his wife Penelope. During his journey back, he encounters the ancient one-eyed Cyclops Polyphemus, the witch goddess and enchantress Circe, and the magical voice sirens before he can be reunited with his wife Penelope. The movie is set to release on July 17th, 2026. The film features a stellar cast, with Matt Damon playing the titular role, Tom Holland as his son, and also starring Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, and Charlize Theron. The movie's hype is justifiable on the pretext that it's a Nolan film. Secondly, the movie has has a $250 million budget, which makes it the costliest of all Nolan films. The film began shooting in early 2025 and was shot in various locations around the world, including Greece, Sicily, Ireland, and Scotland, among others. The Exorcist Reboot. You heard it right. Mother of all horror movies, Exorcist Reboot is returning and has a release date of March 13th, 2026. With writer-director Mike Flanagan at the helm of affairs, the movie will have the names Blumhouse and Universal too. After a long hiatus, the horror franchise made its way to the theaters with Believer in 2023 when Universal and Peacock did a big-ticket collaboration of acquiring the franchise for $400 million, but it didn't do well. Lukewarm response to Believer stalled plans for making a trilogy with writer-director David Gordon Green. But now with Mike back, things are looking up and the studios are being extremely tight-lipped about the plot and cast. Flanagan has claimed the plot has a new take, will have a drastically different approach, but within the boundaries of the franchise. It won't be a sequel to Believer, and that's final. The release date though has raised enough curiosity because it's Friday the 13th, an old horror trick from the horror genre book of marketing. I'm hoping this movie will mirror the success of the original Exorcist because the makers seem to follow all the rules this time. I am 100% sure they aren't experimenting with a franchise and will be giving us what we love, pure unadulterated horror. The release date itself is breaking all myths about releasing a horror flick in spring, which was otherwise reserved for summer, except the 1973 Exorcist movie that came out on Boxing Day. Another detail to remember is Mike Flanagan's Oculus was released in spring too, so the March 13th date has a lot of reasons to work, even if it's a mere superstition. Again, the only other releases in March 2026 are Cat in the Hat, a Pixar project, and Project Hail Mary. Despite not knowing the plot, I am still excited about the fact that Exorcist is now in the safe hands of Flanagan. Dune: Messiah. Frank Herbert's book Dune was made into two films, namely Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2, by writer-director Denis Villeneuve, who has been at the helm since the first installment of Dune. The lead cast includes Timothée Chalamet, Florence Pugh, and Zendaya. Dune: Messiah, the film, is set 12 years after the end of Dune Part 2, the film, so technically this is a trilogy, where Paul Atreides defeats Harkonnen prince Fade Rautha to claim control of the planet. After the face-off, Paul marries the Emperor's daughter, Princess Irulan, Florence Pugh, much to the dismay of his Fremen girlfriend Chani, Zendaya. Paul reigns and, along with Irulan, takes over Arrakis under a different doctrine of religious beliefs with the Fremen-influenced jihad. The story opens with Paul Atreides ruling as the Padishah Emperor, where his Fremen, who are known to be fanatics, have gone ballistic and butchered 61 billion people, maligning Paul's name. Back in the day, Paul had the powers as Kwisatz Haderach to amass power, but now his visions have gone awry. Paul loses his eyesight, but no one knows about it, because he could still see things through his prescient visions. Destiny, however, becomes questionable as Paul struggles with the pressures of godhood. Enemies such as the B'nai Gesserit, the Spacing Guild, and the B'nai Tleilax allied to remove Paul from the throne, and an insider is helping them, Princess Irulan. She laments her loveless alliance with Paul, who is still in love with Chani, now part of his concubine. However, Chani hasn't been able to bear him an heir, which starts to seem like a conspiracy to end Paul's bloodline. The movie is scheduled for release on Christmas in 2026, with the previous cast returning. Villeneuve was heard saying that it was in his interest to delay the release, as his lead hero, Timothy, should look his age, since Part 3 was set 12 years later. The Mandalorian and Grogu. When the Hollywood labor strike occurred in 2023, director Jon Favreau was co-writing the 4th season of The Mandalorian for Disney Plus with Dave Filoni, but production was delayed. As a result, Disney and Lucasfilm decided to make a standalone film featuring The Mandalorian and Grogu. The plot would follow where season 3 ended. To recap, the premise of the Mandalorian TV series is set 5 years after the events of The Return of the Jedi, when the Galactic Empire fell. The story revolves around Din Djarin, the only surviving Mandalorian bounty hunter who's employed by the Imperial Remnant forces to bring back the child Grogu belonging to the same species as Yoda and Yaddle, therefore justifying his connection to the Force. But instead of doing his job, Din Djarin softens and ends up becoming Grogu's caretaker, promising to unite him with his kin. It therefore becomes a journey that's riddled with resistance. The movie's plot is connected to this premise and picks up where season 3 left off, with Din and Grogu in a status of status quo, settling in the New Republic, until it becomes imperative that Grogu must be protected. The Mandalorian sets out to kill the Imperial warlords who want Grogu for his powers, which becomes the basis of this fight. The plot is said to weave Ahsoka into the story to exploit the increasing danger to Grand Admiral Thrawn, thereby setting the stage for the Dave Filoni-written new Star Wars film. Actor Pedro Pascal reprises his role as Din Djarin, making me think of his role in The Last of Us, where he escorts a young girl to her destination. Jeremy Allen White, of Bear fame, stars as Rhoda the Hutt, and Sigourney Weaver plays a role that hasn't been revealed. Grogu will be made lifelike through the use of animatronics and VFX. Johnny Coyne enacts the role of shifty Imperial warlord and will serve as the main villain who has ties with Thrawn's network. High on fan love, Garazeb Zeb Aurelios, who starred in Star Wars Rebels, will return. The movie, being an offshoot of the Star Wars franchise, has a massive fan following, and I won't be surprised if I see Full House boards outside theaters on May 22nd, 2026. Ice Age 6. Ice Age 6 takes off from the last installment, Ice Age Collision Course, and will mark the 7th installment of the franchise. It's due around the holiday season of 2026. The cast remains the same, with actor Ray Romano voicing Manny the Mammoth, John Leguizamo reprising his role as Sid the Sloth, and Dennis Leary lending his voice to Diego, the saber-toothed tiger. And then there's the untamable weasel Buck, who will be voiced by Simon Pegg. While not much is revealed about the plot, it will continue to be a story that involves insurmountable adventures. 20th Century Fox and 20th Century Animation will helm the production of this globally profitable franchise. Since the plot is under wraps, fans started to speculate probable storylines. First of which, if Manny and Ellie's daughter Peaches returns to figure out her roots. Second, if Ice Age's version of Mowgli, i.e. the human baby Roshan, who was first seen in the first outing of Ice Age, returns to reconnect with the gang. Third could be the usual route of creating challenges that threaten the herd's existence, which is climate change and other environmental challenges coming their way, similar to the original Ice Age storyline, which was laced with humor. The director and writer have not been revealed yet, but I guarantee you, it will be one of the biggest draws next Christmas due to its international popularity. Jumanji 4. During the end credits of Jumanji: The Next Level, it showed some animals escaping from the game, making me wonder if the escape was a tease for the next installment, or did it indicate that if the animals could escape, then humans could too. And while nothing is revealed about the plot of Jumanji 4, there are no prizes to guess it won't deviate from the basic premise of the Robin Williams as Alan Parrish, star of the original Jumanji, where the discovery of a weird board game leads Parrish into a wild jungle after an erroneous roll of dice. When director Jake Kasdan came on board in Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, he replaced the board game with a video game, and since it was a reboot, it was an all-new cast with Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan, who are said to reprise their respective roles in the Jumanji 4 outing. Jake Kasdan will also return as the director. Owners of the franchise, Sony, announced that Jumanji 4 would pick up where Jumanji 3 left off, so my guess was right. While not much is known about the plot, actor Kevin Hart said it marks the final installment of the franchise. Considering events from Jumanji 3, where the villain, Jumanji's Jurgen the Brutal, was only a front, it's obvious that the real villain behind Brutal would be revealed in Jumanji 4. Jumanji is one of the most successful franchises, having grossed over $2 billion worldwide since its first release, making it one of the most eagerly anticipated films of 2026. Fast and Furious 10 Part 2. After the last installment, the Fast fam had a lot of queries wondering if Vin Diesel's character, Dom Toretto, survived the massive explosion set out by Jason Momoa's character Dante. It was indeed one hell of a cliffhanger, so Fast 10 Part 2 was inevitable. Now regarding the plot of Part 2, several questions arise with the addition of Dwayne Johnson to the cast. Will he and Dom share screen space? Will they ally? It's not known. In my opinion, revenge will play a significant role in Part 2. Dom's men won't spare Dante and will go out guns blazing to get him. For the uninitiated, the first installment saw Dante, the son of the deceased drug lord Hernan Reyes, seek revenge from Dom and his crew, who had stolen $100 million from his father in the Fast 5 installment. Dante now wants the money back and goes all out to get them. All characters in Part 1 were left in a lurch, except Dom's son, Little B, who was saved by his brother, Jacob, played by John Cena, but lost his life in the process. Dante's team didn't spare the rest of Dom's gang after his henchman Ames blew up the plane that had Roman, Tage, Ramsey, and Han, who were on their way to help Dom. In a major twist, Giselle, who was declared dead in the 2013 installment of Fast and Furious 6, returns and is on her way to rescue Cypher and Letty from an unknown site in Antarctica. There are more than enough reasons to go after Dante, who remains the most dangerous of villains of the Fast franchise, and it will be a daunting task to take him down. Apart from Vin Diesel, Jason Momoa, and Dwayne Johnson, no other cast member has been confirmed. The last installment brought in $652 million from worldwide collections, so part 2 is going to make it even bigger, and Louis Leterrier will return as director this time. Supergirl. Superman's cousin, Supergirl, was raised in a small part of planet Krypton and witnessed everyone around her die, making her a bitter and jaded person who sought revenge, unlike Clark, who had a loving family while growing up. It is this side of Supergirl's character that seems to be exploited in the upcoming Supergirl movie. While going through the galaxy with her dog Crypto, she meets the honorable warrior, Ruthie Mary Knoll, and sets out on a journey to take the lives of those who have harmed her. Craig Gillespie, the director of Cruella, who dons the director's hat, and Anna Noguera will write the movie. Actress Millie Alcock, former House of Dragons fame, plays Kara Zor-El, with Emily Beecham and Matthias Schoenaerts to name a few. The movie is set to release on July 26, 2026. When the film was announced, comics of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, sold out quickly on Amazon, reflecting the hype for the movie.
So, I met an alien. He's kind of gross.
Project Hail Mary. Project Hail Mary is the second movie to be adapted from Andy Weir's novel of the same name, the first being The Martian. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller have teamed up to direct this movie, following their previous collaboration on 22 Jump Street, released in 2014. Screenwriter of The Martian, Drew Goddard, returns to write Project Hail Mary 2. Ryan Gosling, Milana Vaintrub, and Sandra Huller will be headlining the movie. Amazon MGM Studios is set to release the film on March 20th, 2026, through Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Pictures. The plot will follow astronaut Ryland Grace, who wakes up in a spacecraft with no recollection of why he was on the spaceship or his mission. As the story progresses, he slowly begins to piece together the events of his life and figures he was the lone survivor of a crew sent on a mission to the Tau Ceti solar system to investigate a catastrophic incident. As he looks for answers, he has only his knowledge of astronomy, intelligence, and willpower to tackle this colossal problem on his own. He realizes he's not alone. Andy Weir is a popular name amongst sci-fi fans, making this movie undoubtedly the most anticipated. Evil Dead Burn. Evil Dead Burn is releasing 2026 via Sam Raimi and Robert Tappert's Ghost House Pictures. Evil Dead Burn is said to be the newest and last of the Evil Dead franchise. After the mammoth success last year of Lee Cronin's Evil Dead Rise and Fede Alvarez's 2013 Evil Dead remake, it was inevitable that Ghost House Pictures' Sam Raimi and Robert Tappert would come out with a fifth installment. Evil Dead first came out in 1981 that followed poor victims who encountered the Book of the Dead named the Necronomicon, which could call in demon-like deadites and make them possess living beings. I remember that the premise was so powerful that Evil Dead became the never-seen, never-told franchise that swept the box office. However, the sequels weren't particularly impressive, leading to the franchise going dormant for some time after the release of Army of Darkness in 1992. A reboot of the franchise in 2013 revived it, and the subsequent releases seemed unplanned. In 2024, Evil Dead was steered in a new direction, keeping the universe intact but not relying on the original characters. And now, Evil Dead Burn is back with French director Sébastien Vanessek, who will also write the movie with writing partner Florent Bernard. While the plot is unclear, the director, a hit filmmaker known for Infested, said Evil Dead Burn will be a nasty film that tests the audience's limits in the horror genre. The movie is set to release on July 24th, 2026, and will star Suela Yacoub. It will be a standalone sequel, and therefore, I don't understand why it should be the final installment. Perhaps because of the premise. How long will an old book remain the source of possession? Many questions will be answered in Evil Dead Burn, so look forward to it. Masters of the Universe. He-Man, the mighty hero, is back as a movie set to be released on June 5th, 2026. He-Man debuted way back in the 1980s as a toy line by Mattel, after which it was made into an animated series titled He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, where Prince Adam of Eternia has the power to transform into He-Man, the ultimate powerful man to shield his kingdom from the dangerous Skeletor and his evil forces. The franchise was made into a movie in 1986 1987 and now returns in 2026 with director Travis Knight of Transformers fame, with a stellar cast, namely Nicholas Galitzine as Prince Adam, He-Man, Jared Leto as Skeletor, Camila Mendes as Tila, Morena Baccarin playing the sorceress Allison, and Idris Elba as the Man-at-Arms. The film begins with a 10-year-old boy named Adam Glenn who lands on Earth, which is also his mother's home ground. However, in the process, he loses his magical power sword. The magical sword held the power to transform him into He-Man, so it was indeed a crisis. After 2 decades, Adam returns to his kingdom Eternia to reclaim his sword, but he must win the battle against Skeletor, for not only his kingdom, but also for the sword. Adam sets on his journey and has to fight all odds to regain his past glory as He-Man. He-Man represents nostalgia across generations and tops my list of most awaited movies of 2026. Scream 7. Scream 7 will hit the theaters on February 27, 2026, and with only a few months to go, I haven't seen a glimpse of a teaser, let alone a trailer. It's one of the most popular horror franchises that saw an exodus of its former cast and crew. Information circulating is that Kevin Williamson, known for The Vampire Diaries, is the director of Scream 7, who stated that the movie's premise is unimaginable and has never been seen before. The Scream franchise has been in the news for its casting issues, particularly after Jenna Ortega left the franchise following Melissa Barrera's departure. She was fired, which led to the director's exit. So, fans have been treating every piece of news on Scream 7 with a certain level of judgment. As the full cast list is slowly being revealed, the latest news confirms that 2 new actors have joined the Scream 7 cast. The new cast includes Michelle Randolph and Jimmy Tatro, but the characters they will play are currently unknown. Kevin Williamson, who has also served as the executive producer for the show, knows he needs to play the Sidney Prescott card well to drown the bad publicity. As a reminder, Sidney is one of the most beloved characters in the franchise. The movie is anticipated mainly because fans have high expectations for the wrong reasons. Coyote vs. Acme. In 1990, writer and humorist Ian Fraser wrote an article in the New Yorker magazine titled Coyote vs. Acme that was inspired by the cartoon character Wile E. Coyote and the Acme Corporation of the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies set of cartoons. Little did he know that his article would become the source of inspiration for the upcoming live-action animated movie bearing the same name. The movie is directed by Dave Green. Sammy Birch wrote the screenplay that's based on a story by Jeremy Slater, James Gunn, and Birch. The film's cast includes some popular names, such as John Cena, Lana Condor, Will Forte, and Eric Bauza, a voice actor known for lending his voice to several Looney Tunes characters, who will also provide his voice in the movie. The movie is about Wile E. Coyote, who, in his attempt to track the Roadrunner, becomes a victim of Acme Corporation's failed products. Here's when a lesser-known human attorney, Kevin Avery, takes up Coyote's case to file a lawsuit against Acme. The case brings Kevin and Wile closer together, making them friends. With their combined energies and perseverance, they go all out, determined to defeat the mighty corporation. They were up against defense lawyer Buddy Crane, a domineering man who was using bullying tactics on his ex-subordinate Kevin. Will they succeed in this rich versus poor case? It forms the narrative of the movie. The movie entered development in August 2018, with producer Chris McKay. John and Josh Silberman were the screenwriters for the movie. In December 2019, Dave Green joined the team, along with Birch, Slater, and Gunn, and casting was completed in 2022. The shooting, live action, was completed between March and May 2022. Warner Brothers pulled out of the project for tax relief, incurring public wrath. Therefore, the movie was picked up by Ketchup Entertainment, who came on board in March 2025. Ketchup was earlier involved with the animation film The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. The film is scheduled for release in 2026. However, the exact date has not been confirmed. This is a popular franchise that'll cut across generations and is therefore worth the wait. Narnia Reboot. Director Greta Gerwig has been chosen to direct a new reboot of the Chronicles of Narnia, and the upcoming film series is beginning to take form. Based on the series of novels by English writer C.S. Lewis, the Chronicles of Narnia exists in a realm of magic and fantasy and is a story of conflict and resolution within the kingdom. The novels were first published in the 1950s, but the first Chronicles of Narnia film was followed by 2 sequels that received less favorable reviews, which led to the franchise ending prematurely. Despite previous unsuccessful attempts to adapt the Chronicles of Narnia, Netflix acquired the rights to the classic stories and has developed a plan to avoid past mistakes. One significant change is the addition of skilled personnel, and Greta Gerwig is set to direct. After several names were rumored for the role, recent news confirms that the Chronicles of Narnia has cast the White Witch, Charlie XCX, Margaret Qualley, and Emma Mackey of Barbie fame are being considered in the cast. Although no official confirmation has been made by those involved with the production, it appears likely that Mackey will be cast. There is still uncertainty about whether Meryl Streep will play Aslan, or if other casting choices are still under consideration. Following the announcement that the Netflix production would also have a theatrical release, the release date was confirmed for January 2025. In a notable decision for Netflix, the Chronicles of Narnia will be shown on approximately 1,000 IMAX screens starting on Thanksgiving Day, November 26, 2026. Subsequently, Netflix will premiere the film on their platform starting Christmas Day 2026 after about a month in theaters. While other Netflix films have had limited theatrical releases, mostly for award eligibility, Narnia will be the streaming giant's first wide release. Insidious Red Tale. Insidious Red Tale will be the iconic 6th installment of this longest-running horror franchise and was originally scheduled for release by Sony Pictures on August 29, 2025, but it was later pushed back to August 21, 2026. Nothing more is known about the movie, the plot, or the cast. The movie has been in development since May 2024, and the story is still being worked upon with rights acquired and financing and casting in progress. Jason Blum will return as producer of the franchise. Other names associated with the franchise, such as James Wan and Leigh Whannell, will also be returning for this movie. No trailer or promotional material or teaser has been released for this installment as of now. My guess is if the movie has been in development since 2024, the movie is definitely inching towards completion. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given us a release date. What do you say? Strangely, the producers, without releasing any communication about the plot or cast of Red Tale, announced the spin-off title, Thread, an Insidious Tale, that would be headlined by Mandy Moore and Kumail Nanjiani. Does that mean the spin-off would be released before Insidious Red Tale? Or is it just a strategy to keep everything under wraps to tease us? I'm going with the latter. Shiver. In May 2024, a movie named Beneath the Storm, a survival thriller, was being developed by Columbia Pictures with writer-director Tommy Wirkola, starring Phoebe Denever in the lead alongside Whitney Peak and Jimon Hounsou. The movie was shot in Australia and was later renamed as Shiver. The movie is set to release on July 3, 2026. The plot revolves around a hurricane that wreaks havoc in a coastal town, nearly destroying it with a massive attack from deadly sharks. Cornered and staring at nature's cruel game of death, the locals must now survive the rains, the devastating debris left behind by the hurricane, and, worst of all, darkness and predators. Will they survive the storm? This forms the narrative. Shiver is also referred to as a group of sharks. No wonder the title. The hype for this movie is high, as thrillers that feature survival elements often rank among the most anticipated films, so I'm looking forward to it. Withering Heights. Withering Heights is an upcoming movie adaptation of the 1847 novel by Emily Bronte of the same name. It's a psychological drama written and directed by Emerald Fennell, who also serves as its producer. The movie stars Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi in lead roles and is all set for release on the eve of Valentine's Day, February 13th, 2026, under the Warner Bros. Pictures banner. The plot, as per the novel, follows the stories of two families, the Earnshaws and the Lintons, who are wealthy landowners living on the moors of West Yorkshire. Heathcliff, the foster son of the Earnshaws, is intensely and madly in love with the Earnshaw's daughter, Catherine. When Catherine weds Edgar Linton, hell breaks loose in Heathcliff's life, who goes all out to seek revenge. I am unsure whether the movie will follow the plot or just the premise of the novel, as it is one of the oldest stories that represents romanticism at its ultimate level. The movie adds to my list of anticipated movies since it's based on a most sought-after classic in the gothic fiction and romance genres. Send Help. Remember Sam Raimi, maker of the iconic Evil Dead? Well, Send Help is an upcoming horror movie directed by Sam Raimi about two people, one of which contracts an infection that causes his ears to twitch. The twitching is a telling sign to take us to flashes of a horrific plane crash that occurred between 2000 and 2020, of which these two were the only survivors and are stranded on an isolated island. They must now survive fighting their past and sustain their willpower to make it out of the island in one piece. The movie is set to release on January 30th, 2026, and stars Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. This movie is one of the most anticipated films, especially for the Sam Raimi junkies, who would want to see what the director has in store for the audience. Send Help is a different kind of film Raimi has ever made, thus increasing the hype. Clayface. DC Universe presents yet another superhero horror film about a villain of the same name, who is made of clay and possesses shape-shifting abilities, allowing him to transform into horrific proportions. He's a split personality that lurks over Gotham City, alternating between a villain and an ally to Batman. The premise revolves around a B-grade movie actor who injects himself with a potion to stay relevant, but discovers that the potion has magical abilities, allowing him to mold his face and body into any form he likes, like clay. Many actors have helmed the Clayface mantle over the years. A bit of its history. When Bill Finger and Bob Kane created Clayface, their idea was to portray the life of a commoner who uses the identity of a criminal to pursue a life of crime. Kane admitted the idea had been generated from the Phantom of the Opera. Basil Carlo was the first Clayface to appear in Detective Comics number 40, June 1940. Clayface was seen only twice in the Golden Age and was the sole inspiration for the concept of shapeshifting in the Silver Age version. The movie Clayface will be released on September 11th, 2026, and is the third film in the DCU, belonging to the 7th installment of Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. The movie is written by Mike Flanagan and directed by James Watkins. Actor Tom Rhys-Harris will portray the titular role. The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender. The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender is an animated fantasy film that Lauren Montgomery and William Mata will direct. The Legend of Aang is based on the Nickelodeon animated television series titled Avatar, The Last Airbender, which ran from 2005 to 2008. The movie will follow the adolescent days of the main cast of the series, and actors Dave Bautista, Eric Knapp, and Jessica Matten will lend their voices to the main characters, alongside other notable names. The movie is scheduled for release on October 9th, 2026. The movie came into being in February 2021 under the banner of Avatar Studios, a new company of Nickelodeon made to focus only on creating projects related to the Avatar: The Last Airbender franchise. It has a large fan base due to its presence on TV, and therefore it made it to our list as well. Cat in the Hat. The Cat in the Hat is a 2026 3D animated musical film brought by Warner Bros. Pictures Animation and Dr. Seuss Enterprises. The movie is based on Dr. Seuss's 1957 novel of the same name. The book is being adapted into a film for the third time. The first adaptation was for television in 1971, and the second was in 2003. The movie's plot revolves around the Cat in the Hat taking on a difficult assignment, lifting the spirits of two siblings who struggle to cope with the challenges of moving to a new town. The movie is slated for release on February 27th, 2026, and Erica Rivenoya and Alessandro Carloni will both write and direct it. Actors who will give their voices to the characters are Bill Hader, the Cat, Quinta Brunson, and Bowen Yang. The 2003 version of the film wasn't well received, so we're assuming people have a short memory and will return to the theaters to watch this classic children's literature. Terrifier 4. The Terrifier franchise is a slasher horror film about a hideous-looking serial killer named Art the Clown, who wreaks havoc in the lives of people who resent him. However, his motives are somewhat unclear as he embarks on a killing spree. To understand the plot of Terrifier 4, we need to know the backstories of the past installments. Terrifier, the first, took us through the backstory of a character named Victoria Hayes, whom Art disfigured. Victoria survives, but goes insane and later becomes an ally of Art in Terrifier 2. Heinously killing people. At the end of Terrifier 2, the makers give us a glimpse of hope in Sienna Shaw's character, who beheads Hart with a sword left by her father. In Terrifier 3, a headless Art finds his head and reattaches it to his body, then sets out to look for Sienna Shaw, accompanied by Victoria. Sienna, who's out of a mental institution, gets another chance to kill Art, but loses her friend, and one of her friends, Gabby, goes missing with the sword. She needs to be found along with the sword so that Art can be killed. Terrifier 4, I think, will follow past patterns, continuing from Terrifier 3 and providing a believable conclusion to the disturbing, sadistic serial killer Art the Clown. Terrifier is one of the nastiest franchises I have ever known and has diligently adhered to the concept of a sequel. This franchise is not for the weak-hearted, and Terrifier 4 also won't be digestible, as writer-director Damien Leone claims. Leone created the franchise based on his 2008 short film, The Ninth Circle. Terrifier 4 is guaranteed to give you nausea, if not stomach churns. Plot-wise, there there are rumors that Terrifier IV will disclose the origins of Art the Clown. The hardcore followers of the slasher horror genre are surely marking their calendars for the movie's release in October 2026. Flowervale Street. Set in the 1980s, a family discovers strange occurrences in their neighborhood, which leads to the presence of dinosaurs. The movie is written and directed by David Robert Mitchell, a Cannes Film Festival favorite, and known for his breakout movie, It Follows. The movie stars Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor, along with Chris Coy and Bethany Ann Lind, to name a few. The movie was slated to release in May 2025, but after a test screening that showed the movie still had 10% left, Warner Brothers decided to delay the film to March 13, 2026, thereby missing the movie's screening at Cannes 2025. The movie has been shot in IMAX, and with dinosaurs making an appearance, it will surely be one of the most anticipated films of 2026. Werewolf. Robert Eggers, known for movies like Nosferatu, The Lighthouse, The Witch, and The Northman, is helming the movie Werewolf as writer and director, which is due for release in Christmas 2026. While there isn't much information available on the plot, it's said that the story is set in 13th century England, which in itself gets a thumbs up. This reminds me of the eerie, wintry streets of England. I can already imagine a setup like Peaky Blinders, where an actor like Cillian Murphy, with his trench coat hanging loose, transforms into a werewolf against the backdrop of a foggy countryside. Sorry for going off track, but ignore that. Not knowing the plot isn't worrying for me because I know Robert Eggers has a winner on hand. He's known for creating the right kind of setting for his movies, and that's half the battle. There's no official casting list out for the movie, but I'm looking forward to Robert's magic. Moana, live action. Moana is an upcoming adventure film directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, Disney's regular director duo for its animated films. It's based on a screenplay by Jared Bush, writer of Zootopia, Ron Clements, and John Musker. The movie boasts a star-studded producer list featuring Dwayne Johnson, Hiram Garcia, Beau Flynn, and Danny Garcia. The first movie of Moana was an animation film released in 2016, while the 2026 movie is a live-action adaptation of the 2016 film, marking it as the third installment in the Moana universe. Catherine Lagaaya debuts as Moana, and Johnson plays Maui. Walt Disney Studio Motion Pictures will bring out Moana on July 10, 2026. The plot, as depicted in the animated version, revolves around a horrible curse that has been haunting ancient Polynesia since Maui, the demigod, cast it upon the land. To protect her island, Moana now has to travel through the vast ocean to plead with Maui and relieve her island from the curse. Marvelous verdict. Looking forward are two words that stand for hope and excitement, and these 30 movies do that with aplomb. After a tough pandemic and the aftermath of it, 2026 looks like a power-packed year with entertainment. Here's raising a toast to 2026, 6 months in advance, so that these movies keep their promises. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, be safe, and thanks everyone.